In the boxing world, Jake Paul's audacious announcement to challenge Anthony Joshua in 2026 has sparked a flurry of discussion, conjecture, and curiosity that has elicited responses from boxing fans, competitors, and commentators. It seems like a fever dream to some and a well-planned publicity hoax to others that Paul, a former YouTube sensation who now calls himself a pugilist, would square up against a titan like Joshua, who Joe Rogan has compared to a superhero because to his devastating strength and well-defined physique. Rogan couldn't help but make fun of Paul's schedule in a recent edition of his hugely popular podcast, speculating that the 2026 postponement might be a calculated move to put on the steroids and bulk up for the towering heavyweight. The idea of delaying for 2 years has only increased the clamor, with some internet critics encouraging him to do it, while others laugh and wonder why he doesn't lace up right away if he is genuinely serious about the challenge. Anthony Joshua is not your typical foe. As a former heavyweight champion, he has established himself as one of the sport's most athletic and disciplined personalities. Rogan, who has been a long-time admirer, is amazed at how Joshua exemplifies the modern fighter by using advanced training methods like heart rate monitoring, lactic acid tracking, and a careful rest and recovery schedule. Despite the harsh physical demands of the heavyweight division, Rogan contends that these developments provide modern fighters endurance that equals or even exceeds that of the greats of the past. Joshua is a tough mountain for anybody to scale, especially someone like Paul, whose boxing credentials continue to be a source of contention. His record includes highlight reel knockouts and a demeanor that compels respect, so his supremacy is more than just hype. Unfazed, Paul thrives on the suspicion. Taking on well-known fighters, many of whom are retired or past their prime, and transforming them into must-see events that bring in millions of dollars is how he has built his career. Rogan has even reluctantly acknowledged Paul's knockout ability, stating that his one-punch finish of a former UFC welterweight champion would have established him as a real contender if Paul had become a legitimate boxer without the YouTube image. Rogan remarked, "That dude's got dynamite in his hands," envisioning a different world in which Paul's online notoriety didn't overshadow his accomplishments in the ring. But the questions remain. His reputation as an entertainer lingers, and the choice of opponents, imagine aged legends like Mike Tyson or diminutive MMA competitors, only serves to further the divide between his devoted fanbase and his horde of detractors. With a mix of prudence and bluster, Joshua's acerbic promoter and heavyweight in the boxing industry, Eddie Hearn, has entered the fray. In response to Paul's call-out, Hearn delivered a severe warning. Entering the ring with Joshua would require the relevant insurance, a barely disguised allusion to the extreme danger that the former champion's strength posed. However, Hearn didn't end with a warning. He questioned Paul's 2026 schedule, arguing that if the fight is sincere, it ought to take place sooner, possibly as early as 2025. Why hold off? Hearn pressed, his assurance evident in every syllable. The intriguing possibility that this blockbuster may come to fruition well before Paul's suggested date is raised by his openness to explore the matchup and his response to Paul's delay, which suggests possible behind-the-scenes discussions. Excitement and mockery are mixed together in the online response. Some admirers see Paul's challenge as an audacious attempt to establish his reputation and demonstrate that he is more than just a sideshow. Others brush it off as just another attention-grabbing tactic used by a skilled marketer. One commenter said, "He's overstepped himself this time," which was repeated by others like Shannon Sharp. Being 6 feet 6 inches and weighing between 252 and 255 pounds, Joshua's size, strength, and experience make him far too big for Paul, who weighed 200.2 pounds for his Tyson fight, according to the candid analyst. Sharp maintains that the weight difference would be Paul's downfall because Joshua's record is filled with fights against world-class heavyweights, which is very different from the opponents Paul has faced. Not everyone, though, is prepared to write Paul off. A seasoned boxing instructor with decades of ringside experience, Teddy Atlas, has rarely praised Paul's commitment. Atlas stated, "He's a work in progress," declining to join the chorus of derision. "I'm not making fun of everyone that enters the ring. To become the best fighter he can be, he puts in a lot of training." Possibly though Paul's goals, such as facing off against Joshua or possibly Canelo Alvarez, seem beyond reason, Atlas respects his effort. Particularly upsetting has been Paul's assertion that he could defeat Canelo, who is considered by many to be one of the sport's pound-for-pound kings. Purists have denounced it as ridiculous hubris. Paul is unfazed and goes on to claim that he would also outclass Joshua, calling him stiff and chinless despite their apparent friendship. It is impossible to overlook the physical mismatch. Paul's greatest wins have come against non-boxers or faded stars, whereas Joshua's career is a tapestry of battles against elite heavyweights. Think of his epic fight with Vladimir Klitschko or his decisive knockout of Francis Ngannou. In addition to drawing enormous pay-per-view numbers, his most recent bout with 52-year-old Tyson, an icon far past his prime, also garnered a barrage of criticism for lacking competitive substance. When Rogan reflected on that fight, he was relieved that Tyson had not been hurt, and he was also ecstatic about the financial bonanza, which was supposedly $20 million for Tyson and $40 million for Paul. With a hint of nostalgia for the executioner who loomed larger than life in his youth, Rogan remarked, "I'm glad Mike got the money." Paul's strategy, however, focuses on controlling the attention rather than just winning battles. He maintains his position at the forefront of the combat sports world by criticizing legends like Floyd Mayweather, Canelo, and Joshua. This strategy has drew scathing criticism from rivals like Rampage Jackson. Jackson mockingly said, "He won't fight me for another 10 years until I'm too old," accusing Paul of picking opponents he can outlast or defeat. Gervonta "Tank" Davis continued, calling Paul a clown he would laugh at confronting. Yet, recent remarks suggest Davis may be enticed by the salary. Ever the pragmatic, Mayweather has conceded that Paul has a talent for stealing money through entertainment, but he makes it clear that he is not a top boxer. Mayweather warned, if he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad. He was only open to a battle under rigorous boxing rules. Numerous speculations have been sparked by Paul's 2026 timeline. Before taking on Joshua, is he waiting to get experience, put on muscle, or schedule other well-known bouts, such as a possible matchup with Davis? He has alluded to the need for time to reduce the weight difference, which is understandable considering Joshua's massive bulk. However, Paul's jabs against Hearn, such as, "he's two-faced, a weasel," indicate a simmering animosity with the promoter, while Hearn's push for 2025 implies frustration with Paul's maneuvers. Paul's co-promoter at MVP, Amanda Serrano, defends his audacity by saying that his readiness to call out the most difficult names demonstrates his strength. She encapsulated the Catch-22 storyline that plagues him when she remarked, "They say he's a fraud for easy fights, then he asks for Joshua and they say he's nuts." The boxing community is still very split. Atlas attributes Paul's hustle, while Rogan views Joshua as a scary force, particularly following his destruction of Ngannou. But Sharp gives the skeptic's conclusion, "You can't play boxing." As Hearn and others predict, Joshua's record, 28 victories, 25 knockouts, and 4 losses, looms huge over Paul's, and one clean shot might quickly end the evening. However, Paul's ability to overcome the odds keeps the discussion going. It would be another seismic shock in his divisive rise if he were to face Joshua, win or lose, one that, in Rogan's words, may shut the internet down. The setting is set for a collision that is as much about skill as it is about theatrics, regardless of whether that reckoning occurs in 2025 or 2026. This is evidence of Paul's relentless ability to make aspirations into news. The story is made more complex by Paul's larger goals, which go beyond the Joshua chit-chat. Fans are shocked by his claim to have defeated Canelo Alvarez, a fighter whose experience and skill set surpasses even Joshua's. However, this is typical Paul, bold, aggressive, and unyielding. The circus-like atmosphere surrounding him is only heightened by his fascination with MMA, which includes crazy talk about taking on Rogan himself. Although his admirers on X have fantasized about his spinning kicks landing on Paul's jaw, Rogan, who is currently in his late 50s, scoffed off the idea. One joke combined humor with respect for Rogan's unique character, one DMT trip ahead, and he'd see every punch coming. Critics of Paul, including as Jackson and Davis, contend that he has avoided real boxers in their prime and has instead built a career on smoke and mirrors. Sharp suggested that Paul rematch him before going after giants like Joshua, and his bout with Tommy Fury, a rare defeat to a younger active boxer, remains a source of contention. However, his admirers, such as Serrano and even Dan Rafael, cite close calls with Canelo and Davis as evidence that he is striving for greatness rather than money. The logistical intrigue is only increased by the weight difference in those possible bouts, Paul's 200 pounds against Davis's featherweight body or Joshua's heavyweight bulk. Ultimately, Paul's path is a study in contrasts. The drive of a boxer conflicts with the showman's flair, and the promoter's brilliance meets the fighter's tenacity. That duality will be put to the ultimate test whenever he and Joshua clash. For now, the boxing community waits, argues, and observes, torn between applauding his boldness and writing him off as a gimmick.